So let us look at what we did in the last lecture. So how many, yeah, maybe I should ask one more question. How many of you did the exercise which I asked you to do? If you change different norms, still the differentiability remains the same and the derivative also remains the same. How many of you checked it? Please say yes, those who checked. And don't worry if you didn't check, but I just want to know, did anybody try on their own? Because it's actually an easy thing. This is the way you have to learn and you will see how easy it is. Okay. Anyway, we'll do it. Okay. These are the things which are never done in even in MSc PhD classrooms. Okay. So you should feel proud that you know something much better than most other people. I have not shared the screen yet, right?
No, sir.
Yeah. I have to remember such things now. Yeah. So what we want to do is the following. Suppose I have Rm, okay, with some norm. Okay. And I have Rm, it's going to be tough for me, with some other norm. Okay. And this is a norm. This norm, okay, sorry, I should use this norm again. See, this is a problem. I have to be consistent now. And this is the second norm. Okay. These are elements of these norms, either the max norm or the standard Euclidean norm. You understand that? It could be any of them. Are you following what I'm saying? Yeah. This may be one of them. This may be one of them. I do not know which one. And you give me a function f, and you give me a point a in Rm. Okay. What I know is f from Rm with the standard Euclidean norm, with Rn with the standard Euclidean norm, is differentiable at a, with the derivative dfa equal to, let us say, linear map a from Rm to Rn. Okay. Is the notation clear to all? Please say yes if you understand the notation. Yeah, in the domain, one of the two norms, I don't know which one. And in the codomain, one of the two norms, I do not know which one. But what all I know is the function is differentiable with respect to Euclidean norms in the domain and the codomain. So what is the question I want to ask? Can somebody say what is the question I want to ask? How many of you know what is the question I want to ask now? Only two? Aditya, what is the question I want to ask now?
Is f differentiable at a with different norm?
With respect to? So let us call this f, it is the same f, but just to make as clear, I will call it g. Okay. As a function, it's the same. Gx is same as fx, but I want to say g from this space with this norm to this space with this norm. Okay. You understand what I mean? If f of xy equal to x plus y, g of x y is also x plus y from R2 to R2. But the domain norm and the codomain norm may be different. Do all of you understand? So I want to know whether g is differentiable at a. How many of you understand the question? Always questions are more important. Unlike what your teachers and textbooks and our university registrar, vice chancellor, teachers, okay, and government says, okay, answers are not important. Questions are important. Society improves only if you ask questions. Okay. So what is that I have to show? I try to understand this. So I want to prove limit h tends to 0 of, I want to say f is differentiable at a and dg at a is again the same linear map a. Because this structure doesn't change. Linear map, this vector space structure is the same. A is a linear map from Rm to Rn. Okay, this is what I want to check. So what is that I have to prove now? Which norm I should use in the numerator now? I want to say the error term goes to 0 faster than the increment going to 0. Right? That is the increment in the thing. So what is that I have to write here? I have to write f of a plus h minus f of a minus ah. But which norm should I do here? Remember, sorry, this is g. Okay. Now g takes values here. So what is the norm here? The green norm. Yeah? Do you follow that? And H, where does H come from? From here. Therefore, it's the pink norm. Lovely, right? Math is very colorful. Do you accept it? Yeah? Right. So I have to say this is equal to 0. Now we just, this is nothing to do with pink or anything. It's just 0. Okay? How many of you understand this? Quick. Yeah? And it's very easy. Why it's very easy? Let's look at what we proved. We proved with respect to the norms, we proved the following. This norm is less than or equal to, this norm is less than or equal to some constant. This constant, you know, is root n or some such thing, but it's in the, I don't care at all. This c depends on some n. I don't care. That's fixed at that. It's a constant. Do you understand this? Yeah? Right? Therefore, this is any one of the norms. Okay, therefore, let me call this as C1 and C2, where C1 may be 1 and C2 may be root n. I don't care. Okay, some constants. This is what we proved. Do you accept it? Therefore, the green norm has to be one of them. Right? Either this or this. But in any case, the numerator, let me write it, norm of, allow me to write the same thing so that it will save me time. Okay, this fellow will be less than or equal to whatever the norm I want it to be replaced by this. Therefore, it will be sometimes norm x. Do you accept it? Some constant, because this may be this green norm may be this. In that case, it will be, this norm will be less than or equal to 1 by C1 times norm x. So I am writing it as some constant c. How many of you understand? Quick. You have to follow with me thing and do not try to memorize. Do not see whether you will remember. That's a mistake all of you will do. You want to understand at that point of time, at that instant, what they call mindful living. Okay? You have to live at the present. Do you understand this? Now, let's look at this norm. Okay? This may be one of them. I don't care. But again, this norm will be less than or equal to some other constant. Let us call that constant d times the Euclidean norm. So this is Euclidean norm. This is Euclidean norm. Do you agree with this? Norm h. Again, right? This will be one of the norms. This may be this norm also. You can, do you follow that? But what I want is 1 upon h. Therefore, what should I look for is this one. Therefore, norm h will be less than or equal to 1 by d. I hope I am writing it correctly, into norm h. Right? Norm of this object, E of h. Right now. Therefore, c by d, norm of E of h by norm of h. These are all constants, but as h goes to 0, I know this goes to 0. Therefore, this goes to 0. This is always greater than or equal to 0. Okay, I'll give you 20 seconds. I'll keep the board in front of you. Please go through. If you don't understand, raise your hand. And do not try to understand 100% at present. Okay, go with the flow. You think it's all right. Okay, reasonably convinced. I'm happy. 20 seconds. So those who understood can say yes. If any of you have some problem, please raise hand. I will attend to your difficulty. Good. Very good. So what do you think I have proved now? I know f is differentiable with respect to Euclidean norms. Then it will be differentiable with the domain and codomain or given any one of the norms. I don't care. Maybe again they are Euclidean norms, or one is Euclidean, other one may be max. Maybe other one is max, another one is Euclidean, whatever. I don't care. You will recall that the only fact I needed was this kind of this chain of inequalities. Therefore, the numerator is less than or equal to some constant times Euclidean norm. The denominator is greater than or equal to something. Therefore, 1 upon the that is 1 upon that will be less than or equal to. Okay. The proof is very easy. Please go through it later. You won't find in books, etc. You have to wait for my book to come. You will see how we are going to use it. Okay. Right. But before going further, there should be a natural question I should ask. What is the natural question? Some of you have gone through my article will already know what is the natural question I should ask. Suppose m equal to n equal to 1, I have a function f from R to R. From my 12th standard, I know what is meant by differentiability of f at a point A in R. Now, there it only said something like Newtonian calculus. Limit h goes to 0 of f of a plus h minus f of a by h equal to 0. Sorry, f dash a. Okay, it exists and the limit is denoted by f dash a. It's called the derivative. Whereas now, today or yesterday, we had been talking about differentiability in terms of linear maps. So, question we should ask is exactly similar to the question just now I asked. What is the question? If f is differentiable according to my 12th standard definition, is it going to be differential according to today's definition? Conversely, if it is differential according to the new definition, is it going to be differential according to the old definition? And the next question, the 12th standard definition of derivative was a number, whereas today's definition of derivative is a linear map. So, is there any relation? Can I get one from the other? How many of you have understand these questions? Yeah, very good. So we will answer this question now. Okay, but before that we will do something linear algebra. Suppose f is a linear map from Rn to R. It's a linear map. Okay, those of you who have studied linear map from my linear algebra from my book will know what I am going to say. Okay, there is a very nice description of all linear maps from Rn to R. What is the nice description? Remember, any linear map f from a vector space to another vector space is determined, assume these are all finite dimensional to start with. Okay, if I know what is f of vi, where v1 to vm is a basis of v. If I know this for 1 less than I less than or equal to m, then I know how to write f. You understand that? So, what is the natural basis for Rn? Call it e1 e to en. Okay, the standard basis. Right? Now, give me any vector x in Rn, then I can write x as summation xi ei. Therefore, what will be fx? Fx will be f of this, f of xi ei. Because of linearity, it is going to be xi f of ei. Right? Let us call ei as alpha I. Then this is alpha dot x, where alpha is the vector alpha 1 to alpha n, and x is the vector x1 to xn, which is summation xi ei. This is also summation alpha ei. Do all of you understand this? Yeah? This is nothing other than dot product with a vector alpha. But most important thing is I know what is alpha. Alpha is known as soon as I know what are its components, alpha 1 to alpha n. Right? What is alpha I? Notice that it is take the linear map, evaluate it at the ith basic vector. That is me. So, if f is a linear map from Rn to R, then f is given as f of x equal to x dot alpha. Okay, it is better to write as x dot alpha, but does not matter anyway. They are the same. Alpha dot x is same as x dot alpha. Where, and more importantly, I know what is alpha. The ith component of alpha is the real number f of ei. How many of you understand this? Quick. Very good. Good. Okay. With this, in particular, when n equal to 1, what does it mean? f from R to R is linear, then f of x equal to f of 1 times x. Because x I can write as this is a scalar x, this is a basic vector 1. Therefore, f of x will be scalar comes out into f of 1. Do you understand this? Okay. Now we are ready to answer our question. So we will make it as a theorem, but it's essentially a very trivial exercise. So let f from an interval j in R to R, okay, and a be a function, and f is differentiable at a with the derivative f dash a according to 12th standard. If and only if f is differentiable at a with the derivative dfa and dfa acting on h is f dash a into h for every h real number. Okay. Don't try to learn by heart, try to understand. Suppose f is differentiable at a with the classical derivatives f dash a. That's a number, right? Now let's look at dfa. Suppose I want to claim if f is differentiable in the classical sense, it's a differentiable with the new sense. It's not a nuisance. Okay? Right. So, but the new derivative will be a linear map. But linear map from where to where? R to R. But I know what are the linear maps from R to R. It is given by a scalar multiple of the vector f of x equal to some scalar lambda times x. You understand that? So there should be some scalar. What is that scalar? That scalar is nothing other than the classical derivative. How many of you understand this? First try to understand the result. Okay, don't jump into proof. Proof is easy. Take some time. So both the definitions are in some sense equivalent. Differentiability is the same and the derivatives are intimately related. I'll give you 20 seconds, understand, we'll go ahead. So how many of you understand this? See, look at that. We are trying to understand the statement. Okay, that is one trick you have to learn. Whenever you read a theorem, don't jump into the proof. Try to understand the theorem and try to break it into small pieces and ask yourself a question. Try to formulate it in your own words. Even it may be wrong. Don't care. Don't worry. Try to do that. Okay. Right. Now we are ready to prove. But it's actually a trivial exercise. What does it mean to say f is differentiable at a in the classical sense? That says limit h goes to 0 of f of a plus h minus f of a by h is f dash a. Because we are saying it exists and is equal to f dash a. You understand that? Okay. But what is the definition of limit? This says give me an epsilon positive, there is a delta positive, so that 0 less than mod h less than delta implies f of a plus h minus f of a minus h minus f dash of a is less than epsilon. Right? This is the definition of limit. We reviewed it in the last lecture. Right? Now multiply h throughout. What do I get? F of a plus h minus f of a minus f dash of a h is less than epsilon to mod h for 0 less than mod h less than delta. What? Now notice that if I define a of h to be f dash of a times h, this is a linear map. So this linear map A satisfies for every epsilon delta, there is every epsilon positive, there is a delta positive, so that mod f of a plus h minus f a minus f dash a times h is less than epsilon times mod h. That means if I assume f is differentiable in the classical sense, it's a differentiable in the modern sense. And conversely, you repeat. Suppose you have, yeah, please let me just wait. How many of you understand? Okay. Good. So I proved if f is differentiable in the classical sense, it's a differentiable in the modern sense, and I related the derivatives. So the converse, if f is differentiable in the modern sense, then let dfa be the derivative, call it capital A, but the linear map A from R to R is given by A equal to some lambda times AH equal to some lambda times H, where lambda is actually A of 1. Do you remember that? That's what we just now checked. I used F there. Yeah. Therefore, what do I do? I look at this as lambda, right? Therefore, since F is differentiable at A, given epsilon, there is a delta, so that 0 less than mod H less than delta implies this is less than this inequality holds, right? Now divide everything by H, then F of A plus H, yeah, take the H out here, you follow that, divide by H, then I get F of A plus H minus F of A by H minus F dash A H by H, that is lambda, just lambda, okay? This shows that F of A plus H minus F of A by H, as H goes to 0, the limit exists and it's equal to lambda. And what is lambda? Lambda is precisely this. Therefore, F dash A is nothing other than lambda. How many of you understood the proof? Go through it quickly. It's essentially, I'm retracing the steps. The only thing is I cannot use F dash A there. So I'm going to give about 20 seconds. Please take time. Do not be in a hurry. No, I don't want to hear yes, no yet. So A exists and it's of the form lambda times H. Therefore, this inequality holds. Given epsilon, there is a delta such that this holds. Now divide the whole thing by H. What do I get? This one. I should say divide by mod H. Okay. Because Shamik is there. Yeah. Yeah, Shamik. So when I divide by mod H, the mod H goes inside as H. Okay. F of A plus H minus F of A. What I have is F of A plus H minus F of A minus lambda by mod H. You understand? But you remember mod of A by mod of B is mod of A by B. I am using all those things. Therefore, it is F of lambda H. Okay. So how many of you understood?
No.
So can I go ahead? So if at least 30 say, I will go ahead. Quick. Okay. So what have we shown now? Is that, do you think I have proved this? Please again understand and close your eyes and try to say what is the theorem we proved. Okay. I am not going to show the theorem now. So what did we prove? F is a function from an interval J to R. Then I want to say F is differentiable at A in the classical sense, if and only if it is differentiable in the modern sense. And if in the classical sense, the derivative is F dash A. In the modern sense, the derivative is a linear map A. How are F dash A and capital A related? F dash A is nothing other than the linear map A acting on the number 1, which is considered as the basic vector. This is how you should try to learn, and okay, this is what one calls internalization. Okay, you try to formulate in your own way. As I said in the beginning, it may even be wrong, but it should not hold you back. If you don't venture anything, nothing gain. Okay. So please review all these things. All these things will also be available in my article. You can read it. Now suppose I have a real number alpha, okay, and I say a rational number, okay, is approximately equal to R. right? I want, if you give me whatever epsilon, you give me an epsilon, I want to find a real number r so that alpha minus r is less than epsilon, right? Now suppose my alpha actually happens to be in Q, right? What will be the best approximation to the real number alpha by a rational number r? What will be the best approximation or a rational number to the given real number alpha, where alpha actually is rational? You understand the question? Deva?
Sir, can you repeat the question?
See, I have a real number alpha. Okay, you give me a positive epsilon. I want to find a rational number alpha so that r is alpha epsilon close to alpha. Alpha and r are epsilon close. That is mod alpha minus r is less than epsilon, right? Now suppose my alpha is already rational, right? What r you will think of? Which will be a close approximation to alpha? Deva, is the question clear or not?
Yes, sir, it's clear. Thank you.
Yeah. Anirban?
Yes, sir, it's clear. It should be alpha itself.
Yeah, R itself. Yeah, right. Sorry. Alpha. You are right. Alpha is the, yeah, correct. You understand that? Okay. That means, but for example, if you give me 1 by 3, if I want a rational number which is as close to 1 by 3 as I want, the obvious choice will be 1 by 3. But if the same thing, if I ask you for, you give me a decimal number which is close to 1 by 3, then I can't. Meaning, unless you give me up to what order you want. You understand this? Do you see the difference? This is also rational. This is also rational. This is as close to 1 by 3 as you want. Okay. The difference will be something like 10 to the power minus 3 or whatever. Minus 2. At least on safer side. Okay. You understand this? Try to think. Mathematics is fun if you begin to think. Now the question is, I'm just prepared you to think carefully. Suppose F is a linear map from Rm to Rn. Okay. Let U be an open subset of Rn. And let A be a point in U. And restrict F to U. I will still call it as F. See, I am not a hardcore algebraist or pedantic person. I'll simply call F as a map from U to Rn. It's actually a restriction of the linear map to the open set. Right? My question is, what do you think? Will F be differentiable at A? If so, what should be its derivative? Please think. I don't want to hear answers. If you think you have an answer, say yes. Maybe you raise hand. I would like to see that. Don't say yes, raise hand. Because hand seems to remain forever. Is the question clear? Just now I answered it with respect to real numbers. It's like saying that you are looking for an elder person who is father-like, but if I bring your own father, nothing to beat it, right? You understand? How many think? Very less. Very less. You see that? Vikram, how many years? I find very just about 15 max.
Yeah,
Yes, sir,
15,
15.
20.
Yeah, it just says that 17. Yeah, right. That's very less. Lakshmi, who is your best friend? So you go to a new place, you are looking for another person who will be like your new best friend. But then if your best friend herself joins there, don't you think you will be happy? So it's very strange. You see that? You don't want to think mathematics. You think mathematics is manipulate symbols. It's sad, really sad. Even after that example, if they don't know what to answer, it's really sad. Devaditya,
Yes, sir.
what do you think?
So it will be differentiable.
Yeah, why didn't you say anything then?
Yes, sir. Derivative, I don't know what will be.
But what was the derivative in our notation? Look at that. What did I say? Yeah, a function is differentiable if it can be approximated by a linear map. But the function itself is a linear map. So what will be the best approximation to the linear map?
Itself.
Huh? That's it.
It's
That's what I
fine.
said. I am looking for a rational number which has close approximation to real number alpha. But if the real number alpha itself is rational, what is the best approximation? You see that? You don't want to think. Maths is taught like that, right? It's only verification, not discovery, not kind of no. You should be ready to guess. Don't worry about making mistakes. Okay. So what should be the guess? Now, how many of you can answer? Say yes, quick. Really sad. Yeah. I'm happy now, but I'm very sad that, I'm sure that many of you even felt it should be linear, as just now Devaditya said. You may not be worried about the derivative. But again, think, this is the guiding principle. What is the guiding principle? A function is differentiable if it can be approximated nearby points by means of a linear map. And that linear map is the derivative. Therefore, if a function itself is a linear map, it is approximated by the same linear map, and therefore the derivative must be linear map. That is the kind of thinking you should have. Because this is a dull. Your teacher will simply prove it in no time. In fact, I even seen a teacher who said, we define the derivative of a linear map to be itself. Okay, you don't have to define. It's a fact, you can prove it. So I claim f is differentiable at A. And d of A, notice that this is something you should learn now. D of A is F. What is D of A? That should be linear map from where to where? Rm to Rn. Right? And what is F? F is a given linear map, but it's actually restriction of a linear map from Rm to Rn. Right? You understand? That's a need why you have to write F sub restricted to U. Okay? Are you following me? But the answer is very easy. Again, to compute the derivative, what was the trick I said? The trick is look at f of a plus h minus f of a and try to do that. Since f is linear, this is f of a plus f of h minus f of a. That is equal to f of h. Then what should I do? I should look for terms which are linear in h. Look at that. F is already linear. Therefore, I will define a of h to be f of h. Right? Then what happens? What is the error term now? E of h equal to f of a plus h minus f of a minus ah, but that is same as minus f of h. Okay, but that's actually 0. Therefore, what I have to check? E of h. Now, by norm of h, this goes to 0 as h goes to 0. But I don't know, this is already 0. For each h non-zero, this is already 0. Therefore, what is that I have proved? F is differentiable, and for any a, the derivative is the same linear map F. Please pay attention. Try to go through. After 10 seconds, I will resume. Okay. Yeah? How many of you understood? Say yes. If you had understood, if you have not understood, raise hand. Deva, what's your problem?
Sir, I'm somehow not satisfied. In case of if f is from R to R,
Yeah, you discuss it in your discussion hour.
okay, sir.
Okay. So let us try to understand what we have done. Do you remember yesterday I looked at this case? F is from Rn to R, okay, and f of x is x dot x. Then I said f is differentiable at any a, and derivative of f at a. This is a linear map. It should be linear map from where to where? Rn to R. That is, if you give me a vector h in Rn, I should get a real number. We said this is nothing other than 2a dot h. Do you understand this? Therefore, the derivative d of a dependent on a. It's a function of a. It's a non-constant function of a. You understand that? A going to d of a. This d of a is a linear map. Where does it live? It's a linear map from Rn to R. You understand? This is a non-constant map. How many of you understood what I said? Yesterday, I think one of the students asked, okay, the derivative will depend upon a? Yes. How many of you understand? Good. But let's look at this case. F itself is a linear map or restriction of a linear map, or if you want, stick to Rm to Rn itself. Okay. F is a linear map from Rm to Rn, and at any a, F is differentiable, and the derivative of F at a is the linear map a. So in this case, what happens? Here F is Rm to Rn, linear, then derivative of f at a for any a in Rm, derivative of f at a is the linear map f. That is a going to the linear map from Rm to Rn. Okay, a going to d of a, right? But that is f. So what kind of a map is this? How many of you understand my question? Take some time, and especially if you are a BSc student, you will be struggling. If you are an MSc student, you may struggle, but you should understand better. Yes? How many of you know what kind of a map it is? Please say yes, quick. Only one knows. Deepa?
Yes,
What kind
sir.
of, huh? Yeah, what kind of a map is this? I call it a derivative map. What kind of a map it is?
Linear.
It is?
Linear.
No?
Linear map.
See, this is the kind of thing, it's a second order thinking. So it's difficult. That's why teachers don't realize. They keep on writing theorems and proofs. Okay, it takes time. Look at this. Okay, let us look at a very simple case in your R. Okay, f is a function from R to R, right? And f of x equal to, let us say, x squared. Then f dash of a is 2a, right? That is, the function x going to f dash of x is the function, namely x going to 2x. Do you understand this? The function f dash is x going to 2x is the function. Do you understand? How many of you understand this? So f dash itself a function. You understand? That what is the function? F dash is x going to 2x. That's a function. How many of you understand this? See, even in one variable calculus, you have to understand better. Because you always talk about second derivative, nth derivative, etc. But you should stop to think. Okay. At one point, it is differentiable. Therefore, f dash a is defined. Therefore, look at the set, the function a going to f dash a. That's a function. If f is differentiable on the domain, then a going to f dash a is a function now. So, what is that function? Now, let's look at this. Here in the first case, a going to d of a is a linear map. That d of a and acting on H is 2A times H. Yeah. So if my A vector is E1, that vector will be just 2 E1 dot H, that is 2H1. H going to H1. If my A is E2, then DFA will be 2E2 dot H, that is H2, 2H2. You understand that? So the derivative varies with A. Here, does the derivative vary? Whatever you gave me, I get the same linear map here. It's not going to vary. Please appreciate this. Take some time. This is the kind of thing they never teach, because they have to prove a lot of theorems. So how many have you understood? The second thing, the derivative is a constant function. Don't think of f. What we are having, A going to df at A. Derivative of f at A. Derivative of f at A is always the same object. Therefore, it's a constant. You understand that? See, it's something like this. Again, try to think. That's why I said it's second order. So one has to learn to think. Now X, okay, is a set. Let us say R. Okay, my Y is set of functions from, let's say, A, B to R. Okay, all functions from A, B to R. Therefore, if I say X naught, for every X, X goes to the same function, a fixed function. This fixed, once and for all a function. Fixed function F. Okay, this function may not be a constant, but X, for each X, X always goes to F. That means it's a constant function. Do you understand this? This function itself may not be constant, but what I am doing, I have a function X to Y, and for each X, I am giving you a function Fx, which will be a function from A, B to R, which is an element of Y. That's a function from A, B to R. Do you understand? Now suppose my X always go to the same function, that is one single function f of A, B to R. Okay, call this as map phi X to Y, X go to Fx. If every X is mapped to the same function f, what will you say about phi then? I call it, it's a constant function. How many of you understand? I didn't expect to spend so much time on this. But if there are teachers here, you should understand the difficulty. Especially if you teach at MSc level. Right? Okay. Let us look at enough. Let's look at another example now. Suppose f is a function from R2 to R. And let us look at f of xy equal to x times y. This is the function. Right? What will you call? This is actually a multiplication function from R cross R to R. Do you understand that? Okay, this f is nothing other than multiplication function. Do you follow that? Okay. Now I want to know, fix a point a comma b in R2. I want to know whether f is differentiable at, let me call this point as p, differential at p. And if so, what is the derivative? Do you understand the question? Yes? Good. So again, I do not know what is the derivative. Remember, whenever you say f is differentiable, the definition is very strict. It asks you to come up with a linear map A and then epsilon delta. You understand? But that's not the way we work. What we do is we'll try to find differentiability. So let us look at f of A plus h, b plus k minus f of a comma b. That's all we will do. We will try to see, do some algebraic manipulations, collect the terms which are linear in h and k. If higher powers of h or higher powers of k appear, or if you look at the add the powers of h and k up here, which is greater than or equal to 2, they are higher powers. So I will omit them. That's a trick. So what is this? A plus h into b plus k. I'm sure all of you know. It is ak plus bh plus hk minus ab. Therefore, they cancel. So what should be my definition of derivative? D of a acting on hk. How many of you can write down by looking at this? What did I say? You have to look for terms which are first degree in h or k. And anything, for example, if you say x squared times y, that's a second degree. If you say y times x, that's a second degree. So how many of you know the answer now? Those who have seen my notes should not do that. Okay. So what are the terms linear? Look at this ak, only first degree of k. Bh, first degree of k. But hk, it's a second degree because h has 1 degree, k also has 1 degree. Therefore, I should throw it. So I will define it as ak plus bh. bh. You have to check this is linear. But if you again remember your linear algebra, a linear map is given by this, right? A acting on hk should be some alpha times h plus beta times k. Just now I proved it, where alpha is a at 1 0 and beta is a at 0 1. You can check all those things. It's fun to watch. Okay, don't be in this always verification mode. Okay, this is a linear map. Therefore, f of a plus h, b plus k minus f of ab minus, let me call it a acting on hk. Okay, what is this? This is nothing other than mod hk. So what do I have to show? This is my e of h. Okay, this is e of h in modular. Because this is in R, therefore the norm there is R modulus. So what do I have to say? E of h divided by norm h. Okay, if you want, put a modulus also. This limit h goes to 0 is 0. When I say h, it is h comma k. Again, e of h comma k. I am writing e of h because I always think of h as the increment. Here in the incrementals, I am writing separately h1, h2 or h comma k. You understand this? And this is easy. Why? Because I can use any norm. Just now I said, so I can use the max norm, right? Therefore, this mod hk by max of mod h mod k, right? Therefore, this will be less than or equal to the max norm of mod hk squared, because mod h will be less than or equal to max norm of mod hk, and mod k will also be less than or equal to max norm of mod hk. Therefore, this will be less than or equal to mod h. This will be max norm of hk. Therefore, goes to 0. Take some time. Okay, I will again give 15 seconds. Go through the proof. Try to learn this. If you want Euclidean norm, you can again write it. Mod h will be less than or equal to square root of h squared plus k squared. Mod k will be less than or equal to square root of h squared plus k squared. Below will be square root of h squared plus k squared. Therefore, cancels. 1 square root of h squared plus k squared exists in the numerator, etc., etc. Okay, how many of you understand this? Yeah, okay. So, what have we shown? We have shown that the multiplication map is differentiable, and the derivative at the point hk, derivative at the point ab acting on hk is given by a times k and b times h. Okay, you see that it's not ah bk, ah ak bh. You should be able to do it at any time. Okay, right. There are a lot more examples, but already many of you are struggling. Okay, so I will look at slightly different way. Now let's look at a function Rn to R. Okay, Again, if you want, you can restrict to an open set, but to understand this, I don't care whether it's defined on U or on Rn. And suppose A is a point, and let's assume F is differentiable at A. Right? I want to understand this. Then I said there is a linear map A from Rn to R. And we also know what are the linear maps. A will be A of 1, yeah, A of E1, A of En, dot product with H1, H2, Hn. This is what I call alpha 1, alpha n, dot H1, Hn, or alpha dot H, where alpha is this. Do all of you understand this? Yes? Okay. Now just I will write it in terms of Ax so that you can see that better, right? What does this mean? This means f of x plus h minus f of h minus a acting on h. That, okay? This is close to 0. In fact, by divided by norm h is 0, but this is close to 0. That is f of x plus h is approximately equal to x plus ah. Do all of you understand this? Yeah? Yes? Right. Now let's try to write this. Okay. Let me stick to the earlier notation. Sorry. I just now thought of a better way. Let us write A equal to x plus h. Therefore, I write f of x equal to f of a plus a of x minus a. Okay. F is differentiable at a. Derivative dfa is capital A and it is given by this. Therefore, for all x which is very near to a, then f of x plus h is approximately equal to f of a plus a of x minus a. Do all of you understand this? But what is a? A is, this is nothing other than alpha 1 into x1 minus a1 plus alpha 2 into x2 minus a2 plus alpha n into xn minus an. Therefore, f of x is approximately equal to f of a plus summation alpha I xi minus ai I equal to 1 to n. That means I had approximated f, if f is differentiable at a, I have approximated f by a first degree polynomial in xi minus ai. Okay. So x is x1, x2, xn. Therefore, this is a polynomial in x1 minus a1, x2 minus a2, and xn minus an. So this is the first degree polynomial with the constant term f. Therefore, differentiability of f at the point A implies I can approximate f by a first degree polynomial. Earlier we said by a linear map acting on the increment. Here we are saying the function can be approximated by a first degree polynomial. And it has a constant term. The constant term is the value of the function f at a. How many of you understand this? Good. Now let's look at what we say about this. We said approximation, but approximation always have to be quantified. What is that approximation says? That says E of h, where h is x minus a, that is the error term, simply write E, okay? That divided by norm x minus a as limit x goes to a is 0. That means fx minus fa minus summation alpha I xi minus ai. Okay, this is modulus because remember it's a real valued function, right? And divided by this one, square root of, if you want square root or maximum of this norm, mod x1 minus a1 mod xn minus a, or x summation xi minus ai whole square to the power half. Now this goes to 0, right? So differentiability of f at a means I can approximate it by means of a first degree polynomial, and I have a reminder or I have an error. What is the error? The function minus the first degree polynomial that should go faster than mod x minus a, norm x minus a. You understand this? This is a first degree polynomial. Just I want you to think ahead. Suppose I want to say I want to approximate f by a second degree polynomial. That will mean it will be of the form f of a plus alpha into xi minus ai I equal to 1 to n plus something like, let us say, beta ij xi minus ai into xj minus aj inj varying 1 to n. Okay, this is my second degree polynomial. Okay, just call it simply p. If you want to call, let me call it t2. Yeah, then I want to say f approximate t2 approximates f. That whenever I say approximation, then I have to quantify the error, how much error I am making. Okay, so the first thing is it should go to 0 as x goes to a. But can you say something more? Can you demand more? And don't be disheartened. Okay, I am trying to push you because within 8 lectures I want to feel very confident there, and you should be able to read a book on your own. Okay, so do not be afraid. If you should be ready to make mistakes. So what kind of condition you should vanish faster than something is what I should say. Limit x tends to a of this modulus by something should be 0. What should be here? In the first degree, I wanted norm of x minus a. And when I want to say f is approximate a second degree polynomial in x minus a, that is xi minus a is, so what kind of error? Decay rate I should expect. It vanishes faster than something. What should be that? Yeah. Can you raise hand so that it will remind? Very good. Good. A lot of people. That's very good. Yes. Good. Sneha, what should I require?
Norm x minus a square.
Exactly. Excellent. X minus a whole squared. You understand this? So what do you think you will get? Do you understand? This is what leads you a Taylor polynomial. See, you just have to imagine. So, see, you again think about 300 years ago, 200 years ago, even 100 years ago. You give me a function. Functions are very complicated, but the only functions I know are polynomial functions. So, my natural thing will be to find an approximation by means of a polynomial function. And again, when I know that when I want to say f is approximately equal to nth degree polynomial, then I want to say how much the error term should vanish, how fast it should vanish. So if Tn is the nth degree polynomial, then I should ask for f minus Tn should go to 0 faster than x minus a to the power n. How many of you appreciate this? Don't worry about this. If time permits, we will end up with that towards the end. In the last lecture, I may be able to prove that. Do you understand this? And as I said, don't worry. If you understand 20-30%, you should be happy because you are thinking ahead. This is how one built an empire, a subject. Okay. Also castles in the air. Okay. You have to dare to imagine. So derivative, now we had looked at two different ways. The first thing is I should be able to approximate the increment in the dependent variable by means of a linear map acting on the increment in the independent variable. And the error should go to 0 faster than the increment in the independent variable going to 0. This is what we did. And we then made it into epsilon delta definition. Now, second definition, what we are looking at, this is the classical thing actually. What we are doing, you give me an arbitrary function. When I want to say it's differentiable, it means I am going to approximate it by means of first degree polynomial. When I approximate, there is an error, the remainder, the function minus the first degree polynomial. That should go to 0 faster than norm of x minus e. So if I want to approximate f by nth degree polynomial, then the error is f minus the nth degree polynomial. That should go to 0 faster than x, norm of x minus a to the power n. Isn't it beautiful? How many of you understand this? This explains your Taylor's theorem, which you might have struggled when you did BSc. We will come to that. Okay. All right. Now, just before I stop the lecture, one more thing, and I'm going to again give a homework for you. Now, suppose I have a map from Rm cross Rn to Rk. Call it B. I call B is a bilinear map. Yeah? No, right? What do all? How many of you know what is meant by bilinear map? Raise your hand so that the counting will remain for me. For example, dot product is a bilinear map. Multiplication is a bilinear map. Okay. Okay, I will take it up later, so let's not worry about it. Now let's look at R2 cross 2 real matrices. This is, I can think of this as vector R4. This is a AC and BD. Therefore, I can think of this as a vector in R2 cross R2. Or you can also think of it AB, comma CD in R2 cross R2. Did you understand this? Yes? Therefore, I have a norm on this. Norm will be maximum of mod A, mod B, mod C, mod D. That's a norm. Okay? Right? Now, I have a function f from M to R, which is given by f of ABCD is AD minus BC. That is the determinant of the map. Yeah, call it A. Do you understand this map? Do you have any problem with this map? Quick. Do all of you understand? Is there anybody who has difficulty? Please raise hand. Okay. Do you understand M to R? I am thinking of R4. What are the coordinates? First coordinate A, second coordinate B, third coordinate C, fourth coordinate D. Or you can also think of A, C, B, D. I don't care. Because anyway, I am going to take maximum of the entries. Maximum of the modulus of the entries. Okay. Now I want to know, let fix A, B, C, D. I want to know whether f is differentiable at A. And if so, the derivative d of A, what it should be? It should be a linear map. From where? The vector space M to R to the vector space R. Therefore, if you give me a map, if you give me H, a matrix in this domain vector space, I should get a real number DFA acting on H. How many of you understand? We are not working out. First, you should feel confident what we are looking for, because the notation is complicated. This kind of second order thinking is never emphasized, so you will have problem. That's why I am going slow. Do you understand this? I want to know whether f is differentiable. What is f? F is taking any matrix, mapping it to the derivative. I want to know that it is differentiable at A. If it is differentiable at A, the derivative should be a map, linear map. From where? The domain vector space M to R to the range vector space codomain R. What does that mean? Give me any matrix H in M to R, DFA acting on H should be a real number. Do you understand this? Now, how do I compute this? remember I already told you the trick. The trick is I do not know what is d of A. Okay, since I already used A, let me call it as a T. T is the linear map, right? I do not know what is T. But to find out T, what will I do? I look at A plus H, f of A plus H minus f of A, and collect terms which are linear in the variables of H. Let us fix the variables of H to be something like X, Y, Z, and W. The variables of H will be X, Y, Z, W. You understand that? This is the increment. Now, what is f of A plus H? I think all of you are faster than I am. I will struggle. A plus H, let us just make sure. B plus Y, C plus Z, D plus W, and its determinant, that is AD plus XW minus, am I right? Just correct me if I am writing wrong, okay? Yeah, there I am already started writing wrong. Just 1 second. Okay, well, let us write it this way, so I will not make mistakes. A plus X into D plus W minus C plus Z into B plus Y minus f of A will be AD minus BC. Okay, there is a AD that will cancel, therefore I will be left out the AW plus XD plus XW minus CB, that will be cancelled, that will be C times Y minus, okay, C times Y, CB cancelled, Z Z times B plus ZY. Do all of you get it? Did I miss anything, Vikram?
Should be minus ZY.
Ah, right, correct. Do all of you agree with that? Now I am looking for linear terms. What is the linear terms? It should be first degree only in one of the variables X, Y, Z, W. What are they? This is allowed. XD, this is allowed. XW, is it allowed? Can somebody say, is it allowed? XW is in the here. Therefore, it's a second degree. Therefore, this is not allowed. And CY, that's allowed. And this is ZB, right? Yeah. This is allowed. And ZY is not allowed. Therefore, I will define T of H to be AW minus CY plus XD minus ZB. See, it looks like a very cumbersome. So that's it. Is it linear? Remember, the variables of H are X, Y, Z, W, and linear map should be from R4 to R. Any linear map from R4 to R will be alpha 1 times X1 plus alpha 2 times X2 kind of thing. That's how it is. Therefore, this map is linear. Try to think fast. Okay, this map is linear. And what is left out? Second degree. Therefore, this will be mod XY plus mod ZY, but this will be less than or equal to norm of H squared, and this will also be less than or equal to norm of H squared, and you have to divide by norm of H. Therefore, 2 norm H squared, that will go to 0. Therefore, I know E of H by norm of H goes to 0. That's okay. Therefore, this is the derivative. But this is not pleasing. Okay. The homework I wanted to do is I would like you to write TH in a somewhat tractable form. I would like H to remain X, Y, Z, W. Right. Now you can see that X, Z. So you should be, D should come here, DX. And then multiply this Z, that should be minus B. And so on. You can write it. Right. So you will get some kind of a matrix which is built out of ABCD. The matrix, given matrix capital A. Now try to understand what is really happening in this example. Okay, that's a homework for you. So it's already time today. I will stop sharing. And my sincere request is do not lose heart.